welcome to the Only in Movies podcast. I'm your host, Anari, coming to you from Austin, Texas.
And I'm your host, Amato, coming to you from Buffalo, New York. And in this podcast, we break down scenes and discuss things that happen only in movies. Welcome back, listeners. This is a milestone for us, 20th episode. Gunshot.
20. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Only in Movies Pod to find out what movie we will be covering on our upcoming episodes. Also, watch ahead and send us your suggestions for scenes that should make our Only in Movies list, and also for a chance for your suggestion to make it on the show.
This week's movie, Die Hard. Another classic for the 20th episode, 1988. I was 7 when this movie came out.
Yep, we're going to be covering a classic every 10 episodes, so whoop whoop, we're already there. Number 2. Thank you all for voting. This was fan-sourced, and you guys helped us decide what movie we chose for the classic. We did have... What was it, Amalo? Oh, we had Weird Science.
I wanted to do Weird Science.
Yeah, Amalo's a Weird Science head. We had Weird Science, Die Hard, Memento, and The Dark Knight. We tried to pick 2 from early 2000s and then 2 from the 80s. So, yeah.
So awesome. So, Die Hard. Directed by John McTiernan. Starring Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman, Reginald Vale Johnson, and Bonnie Bedelia. A bit about this movie. New York City policeman John McClane is visiting his estranged wife and 2 daughters on Christmas Eve. He joins her at a holiday party in the headquarters of the Japanese-owned business she works for. But the festivities are interrupted by a group of terrorists who take over the exclusive high-rise and everyone in it. Very soon, McClane realizes there's no one to save the hostages but him.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, that's mad issues. This movie was 2 hours and 12 minutes long, and it didn't really seem like it. I definitely give it that. There was stuff going on at all times, for better or worse.
Yes, I was going to say there was always something to pan to or switch to, and I thought about the same. I was like, there was a lot going on. Like, why did they have to have all these different situations going on? They could have focused a little more on the more interesting ones.
So one thing I noticed this watch that I never noticed before is how many little cheesy things they did. Like, I know there's little cheesy 80 things, but like when Uli, the Asian guard, when he
with the candy,
when he steals the chocolate, when the soldiers are going through the flowers and they're getting cut by the flowers, just like little stuff like that. I was like, that wasn't even necessary. Yeah.
Yes. So I had the same. I was like, I didn't notice how much of a comedy this movie was. Kind of, it was very comedic for also being an action movie, kind of, serious drama.
Yeah, I mean, a high body count movie. People were dying left and right. A lot of people dying.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I was actually caught off guard a little bit by the direct violence pretty early on in the movie.
Well, I mean, I've obviously seen this movie 700 billion times. This is probably one of the movies I've seen more than any. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's up there for me, too. But it's been a long time since the last time I watched it.
It actually hasn't been for me because I think I watched it with the kids not too long ago, in the past 4 or 5 years. And this is what I thought. To watch this movie, I thought this was probably the first movie I was too young to see when I saw it. Like, I probably shouldn't have been watching it at that age.
Yeah, I watched this in DR as well. This is one of those that my dad loved. Action movies. And I saw this, Spanish dubbed, and it was great. But it was definitely way too violent for a kid to be watching this. I also didn't remember that early on scene in the office that everybody was such a damn hornball and like debauchers.
I remember that.
Like, what is going on in this party?
I remember that. And speaking of which, real quick, since you brought that up, if your boss walks in the office and you're doing a line of coke, I expect something to happen. Like, it was mad obvious what he was doing. I don't care how much business you bring in. I know it was the 80s too. It's just a different world and I'll never understand it.
Yeah, but it wasn't even his office. He's doing coke on the desk of a colleague's
and you can
office.
see all the powder still left on the desk and everything after he does it.
Yeah, and on his face, I was like, it's a company Christmas party.
Go to the bathroom.
People were fucking on the desk. Yeah. Like an office over, people were fucking. I was like, I mean, Christmas parties can get crazy at jobs, but I was like,
the 80s. Damn. The 80s is a different world. Well, we can never understand.
80s and California.
Yeah. Yes, and lots of money and free drinks.
Yeah, he kept mentioning California. I was like,
but he was saying it. So that's another thing. Since you brought that up, he kept saying that for dumb reasons, though. Like, a drunk guy came up to him and he was like, California. Like, no drunk guys come up to him in New York.
Yeah, they were trying to insinuate like the flirtatiousness of the guy because he was like kissing him on the cheeks and all that. I was like, all right, that's a bit much.
Yeah, I get that, but that could happen in New York.
Potentially, yeah.
This is New York City. I've been
They were definitely like the old tropes of like, oh yeah, California
Yeah.
is more
liberal and
sexy, liberal, yeah, and New York is just, it's just hard. There's a lot of like stereotypes in this movie, but we'll get into that. A lot of problematic parts. For example, Japan kept featuring. I mean, we know why, but like they had like Pearl Harbor jokes.
yeah, that was pretty bad. Yes,
and not so subtle racism or like xenophobia. Like, oh, I didn't know Japanese people celebrated Christmas. I was like, what? But he got him back with that, the tape deck joke.
Yeah, because Japanese is a religion. So.
So we're going to get into our only movie scenes. And these are scenes that we selected, usually 3 each. I don't know what scenes Amalo picked. He doesn't know what scenes I chose. And we're going to see if we have any overlap and break it down. You want to go ahead, Amalo?
Sure. So I'm going to go with a pretty early scene in the movie. So Hans and his crew pulls up. They pull in front. They walk in. They shoot the guard in the head.
Right.
There's no blood. There's like no blood anywhere. They take the guard. They go about their business. They shoot the Takagi in the head. There's blood everywhere. It's all over the glass, brains and everything. Now,
yeah, that was like too much. It was like somebody sprayed the door.
Right. So when they shot the guard, they used a silencer. So I don't know if they were trying to insinuate that if you use a silencer, it limits the amount of damage that's done. But it was really convenient there was no blood because now when the cop comes to check the scene, there's no blood for him to be like, oh, wow, there's blood. Let me investigate further.
Yeah, and the bad guy even got to put on his clothes. Like, no, right. Not a stain on it or anything.
That's an excellent point. He got shot like almost point blank in the head, and
not a sprinkle on his white shirt.
Yeah, there was his clothes were clean. The guy switched into his clothes. His desk, his chair, there was no blood. There was no blood on any of the glass because silencers change how bullets hit you.
Yeah, that's a good one. So my scene is when John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, surprises Tony and puts the gun up to his head. Now, he doesn't make Tony actually drop his gun or anything immediately. I don't know why. He just starts chit-chatting and making jokes about it. And then as Tony is also turning, he tries to like kind of get the upper hand. He doesn't even hit him with his gun either. He just punches him and then rolls down a little bit of steps, choke, and then he dies.
He didn't even really punch him. That's what
it was
really
like an elbow
me.
Kind of thrown.
But it was but it wasn't even a good elbow. Like he didn't like elbow him. Nope. He like tried to hit him with the gun elbow. Like I was like, what is he doing? Like I rewound that part like 4 times because I was like, what move was he going for? Headbutt
him. He should have just
he could have did 7 million different things other than what he did that didn't make any sense. And that put him in a vulnerable position. He could have just shot him. Yes. He could have hit him with the gun. He could have shot him in the leg. But that was actually one of my come on fams.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then funny that you mentioned, the vulnerable position. Both guys did this, both bad guys and good guys did this throughout the movie where they have the upper hand and then they completely blow it.
So, since you brought that up, mine is when John's under the table and the dude's on top of the table. And he's like, you never hesitate. Yes. You don't hesitate. And then
look at me not hesitating. Look at me. I have that as one of my come on fans. Like he's like chasing him, shooting the table. I'm like, why don't you just shoot a little bit ahead if you know he's going that way anyway? He literally went to the end of the table and then stopped there to reload. I was like, come on, man.
And talk about everything and explain to him where he went wrong in life and stuff.
Or even stop and just peek to the side. It's like, I know he's still moving up.
Right.
That was a pretty bad scene.
So my next scene is when John uses the walkie-talkie
just the whole time? We're like, okay.
Well, yes. But this particular... So the walkie-talkie is the shit didn't make no sense to me. Because sometimes they were listening to each other and sometimes they weren't. Nobody ever thought, let's go to a different channel.
Or they would go to different channels every now and again.
And
but there wasn't any actual different, like, you wouldn't be able to tell when somebody's on one channel or the other. It's like everybody's just having conversation all the time apparently on the radio.
Like there were times that like they mentioned that John McClane was an NYPD. Hans says John McClane, NYPD, and then later in the movie the FBI is like, so who's this? We're like he's John McClane. We think he might be a cop. They don't say he's likely NYPD. That's crucial information. I was like, these people the walkie-talkie thing.
Yeah, don't get me started on the feds and the cops outside. That's a whole. That's next. I got something for that.
But the whole walkie-talkie communication and what they could intercept and couldn't intercept was just frustrating to me. But when he uses the walkie-talkie to call for, what did he use to call?
Oh, to call 911.
Was it the walkie-talkie?
To contact. He used the walkie-talkie to.
Okay.
To contact like EMS pretty much.
So he used the walkie-talkie to contact 911. The dispatch sees that there was a fire there before. It was called off. That's not suspicious. She's explaining to him it's an emergency line. He's going to go to jail. He's like, okay, send the cops, please. Now, she's like, no.
Yo,
there's gunfire.
He is literally yelling at her. I am getting shot. There's terrorists. They're wearing this. There's this many people. They're on the. He's giving the whole rundown. She's just like, sir, please stop talking. I don't care. I don't care. I don't
not
care.
The means for this. She then hears gunfire. She takes off her headset because of the gunfire, and she's like, send the black and white to see if there's an issue.
Let's do the least we can to check up on this, please. He didn't seem exactly calm,
right? Yeah, like he just was calling just to be like chilling.
Like I said, there was a couple of trends of people just doing their job at the very like basic level. At the very minimum, they can say they were doing their job, I guess. But
right,
but
just like,
you know what?
Not really. On a scale of 1 to 10, that was like a 2. Like you did it, but. So speaking of 80s things, a couple of quick things. First, he lit up a cigarette in the airport, and I was like, wow, I'm surprised he didn't smoke it on the airplane, because this is the 80s. He could have did that.
Yeah.
I actually remember flying when you could smoke on the plane, and people smoking on the plane.
How was that? Terrible?
I don't remember. I was like 7, 8. I was hated being on the plane to be in the first place. But my mom was a smoker, so it wasn't that dramatic to me.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And then
I've thought about that. I'm like, on the plane, I was like,
yeah, no, it's pretty
can't
terrible.
go anywhere.
Yeah, right. But they had, ventilation and stuff. Yeah, I guess. Again, it's the 80s.
I was like, all right, I guess.
The other thing was he had his gun on the plane, and my dad was a cop, as we've discussed before.
I've never heard that before.
Right, that's new information. Yeah, I remember actually getting on the plane with him in the 80s and him having his gun on the plane. You can't do that now, but he literally had a loaded gun on the plane.
Because it's the 80s. That's going to be the name of this episode. Die Hard. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Book it.
Yeah. But I totally remember that. And now, obviously, that's nuts. But in those days, he was a cop. He showed his badge. He went around the metal detector, got right on the plane. Yep.
Never even dropped his whiskey.
He actually had a shot with the guy who he showed his badge to.
Nice. So we were speaking about the feds. My next scene is when Powell, played by Reginald VelJohnson, is talking to the deputy police chief, Dwayne Robinson, played by Paul Gleason. He's telling him, like, oh, I think there's something going on over there. I think we should definitely look into it. And he goes, nah, he's telling him, nah, I don't think it's a big deal. It's probably nothing to worry about. And he goes, what about the body? And he goes, oh, it's probably some stockbroker that got depressed. I was like, what?
Right. On Christmas. And it didn't seem like those windows just opened.
No.
So he had to run and
like,
flick himself out the window.
But somebody dropped out of the window as you got a call about a kidnapping. You got an emergency. Like there was no connecting of any dots being made.
The fire from earlier.
Everybody arrived at the first conclusion, and that's it. They didn't look past it. Like, this is a building. There's no way there could be terrorists in it. Let's move on. Everybody go home.
Right.
I fucking hated that reporter, though. He was such a scumbag.
So there's a couple of things I remember from this movie from the first time I saw it. Hating the reporter was obviously one of the things I hated. The whole INS thing, going to the dude's house, like
interviewing like minors.
So I remember during the Boston bombing, the marathon bombing, they went to one of the like terrorist uncle's house, and he gave the family's address on live TV, and I was like, oh my god. Like this is not responsible at all. Somebody is not doing a good job, and they need to stop doing what they're doing and really think about what's going on right now. This is not responsible.
Whoever's producing this shit is terrible.
Because he was like, I'll take you to their house. They live right at... And I was like, whoa, stop.
That's not good.
Yes. So yeah, I remember hating him from since I was 7 years old. I hated that reporter. He put my man John in danger or extra danger
for no reason. That was his angle interviewing the kids. I thought it was the whole news segment was kind of useless. Like they focused on it like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. They kept going back to like the interview with the guy. I'm like, why is this being featured?
And that was another one of the silly things when he talked about Helsinki.
Yeah, he goes, sweet.
No. Yeah, but like that was just random and like, why is that in this? There was like airplane for a second.
They just this was like a low key comedy,
and it's a holiday movie. Let's look at all the genres this movie spans.
So is this a Christmas movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. There's contention around that.
You don't agree with that?
No, I agree. This is a Christmas movie.
Okay,
it's a Christmas party. All right?
It starts like he wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Christmas.
When Hans sees the safe open, there's Christmas music playing. This is a Christmas movie. There's
Christmas music playing numerous times during the movie, actually.
Yeah, all over the place. It's like, what more do you want? There's no snow, but it's California. What do you want?
Right, yeah, no. There's ashes. That's close enough.
There are ashes. Yeah, you're right.
So I watched this movie using Amazon, and Amazon randomly tells you, especially when it's an old movie like this, it randomly tells you like tips and trivia about the movie as you like scroll. And did you notice at the beginning of the movie, he looks out the window and there's some lady like in her house? Yeah,
like in a bikini or something, or underwear.
Yeah, and then the rest of the movie, when they show the building, there's no other buildings anywhere near it.
Yes. I didn't even catch that.
I didn't catch that either, but once that pointed that out, it was like totally right. Every other time you see the building, there's not a building within like 50 miles of it.
Yeah, it's like a standalone, very prominent
campus
building.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, right. That's another thing. Why would there be a residential like right next to a whole plaza?
Right across the street.
There were a couple things in there. Well, more than a couple, but that was one of the things that I was like, why did they include that?
Completely didn't make any sense.
And at no point did he even try to contact anyone by like shooting across. As I was watching that, I was trying to remember. I'm like, does he try to shoot at the building to get her attention or something?
Right. When you see it, it's like, what is the point of this? Especially if you've seen the movie, you're like, why are they showing me this?
Right. Yeah.
So my last scene, is a scene that literally bothered me from the first time I saw this movie in 1988. I might have saw it in 89, who knows? But the late 80s, it just still to this day makes absolutely no sense to me. So your man, Karl. So you spoke about Tony. Tony was Karl's brother who got his neck broken on the stairs. Karl was very upset about this, and he would like revenge. He wanted to avenge his brother's death. He doesn't.
Nope, he fails miserably.
So he gets hung by a metal chain by his neck for who knows how long, right? He gets hung, they go to the roof, he shoots up the roof, the building explodes, they run down, they run past him, he's hanging there. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's a good one because they went upstairs. That's key. They went upstairs for several minutes, all right? And then...
Yes. When they run down the stairs, they show him hanging there and the people looking at him in horror, right?
And he's not exactly wiggling.
Right. Fine. Somehow he has the neck of steel and he survives. Fine. They cut him down, right? Now, when they cut him down, do they put him in a body bag because he's dead? Or do they put him under the blanket because he's alive? Fine. They put him under the blanket because he's still alive? Okay, because if they put him in a body bag, he's zipped up and they would just be carrying him out.
That scene stood out to me because I was trying to figure out, wait, how did he get there? So was he brought out? Because he had I thought he used a blanket as like cover to get out of the building and not be spotted because he had a gun under that.
But
so they didn't put him there.
Where did he get the gun from?
On his way out. That's what I think. So I think he made his way out of the building on his own.
And he hid under the blanket. But to me, it looks like they're escorting him out.
I didn't see if somebody was actually like arm over shoulder walking him out.
Yeah, I'm pretty I'm almost 100% sure it's almost their like hand on shoulder walking him out.
He had the blanket over him with the gun under. That kind of gets hobbled over, and then he just sprawled out and tried to get everybody. But that clears that up a little bit. I was trying to figure out how did he get there.
I'll take that. I'll take that. He still shouldn't be alive.
I thought
there's no way he survives.
There's no way.
He survives. Fine. He filed the gun. He takes the gun. He puts it in the stash. He snuck out. I'll take that. He should not be alive.
And he looks even a little bit charred, like he got burned in this process too. when he was out there.
Well, so maybe, if you want to consider, maybe when the explosion, when the explosion happened and knocked him down, he got burned. That's how he got loose. But he should have been dead by that point, like dead.
Yeah, it's been like 20 minutes, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
So my last scene is when John meets Hans for the first time. So he runs into him. He suspects him to be a bad guy and then confirms him to be a bad guy and still takes his sweet ass time having a conversation with him instead of immediately shooting him in the head or taking control of him or doing, like you said, 7 million of other things that he could have done at that moment. And he's the mastermind of this. And he knows this because he's been hearing him on the phone on the walkie the whole time. He also hears him call for backup. And again, still decides to give him Spider-Man talk.
Even when backup gets there, the elevator dings. Instead of him shooting Hans, he shoots at the backup.
Right. I was like, what? So this happened twice. Well, something similar happened to this because going back to your conversation about Karl, he was dying to get revenge. And then he has a gun in John's cheek and doesn't immediately kill him. For some reason.
Yeah. No, but that was, he wanted to fight like man.
Yeah, fight like man.
So I'm in that situation. We gonna fight like man, but I'm gonna shoot you in both kneecaps first. Just so I have an advantage. I really am upset.
Yeah, I did not understand that. So this is another example of, the good guy having the upper hand and completely blowing it.
Yeah, no, yes. He should have been dead. If this was real life, he would have made it past 5 minutes.
No, it was egregious. And I was thinking about that scene. I was like, so he suspected him to be a bad guy, and he's like toying with him. I'm like, people are kidnapped upstairs, all right? Mad people have died already. Like, maybe you take a little bit less time, with this little.
You got to be decisive.
I know, right? He's like having fun with it.
So right after that scene, we're going to Come On Fam because this transitions me into my first Come On Fam. Well, not my first because we've talked about numerous ones as we went through, but yeah. Come On Fam scenes, the scenes that we saw, we were just like, come on fam, this is just ridiculous. So by this point in the movie, like right after that scene, he's killed about 5-6 people, right?
Yep.
From what we saw, he's tried on one guy's shoes.
I thought about that. I was like, what happened to everybody else's shoes?
He didn't try on nobody else's shoes. Even if he did, by this point, he could have wrapped a t-shirt, some of their clothes, bags, something around his feet to protect them from the inevitable shards of glass that he was going to encounter.
Screw that, a thumbtack, all right? I'll take you down, all right?
100%. 100%. He could have ripped up their pants or wrapped it around his feet. He could have made some makeshift shoes. He didn't really try.
Nah, he wasn't. He was having a good time.
He wanted to learn the hard way.
One of my Come On Fams was when the computer hacker, he's taking down the systems for the building, locking everything down, and then he does a kick to an electrical closet, and that thing like blows up and sparks like crazy. I was like, what?
Theo, my guy Theo, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, he just karate kicked the electrical closet, and that thing blew up pretty much.
Another one of mine is the iconic scene where he uses the machine gun and hangs on the strap.
Yes, I love that scene.
That's the most ridiculous shit I've ever said. He literally would have gotten, the second that he would have got to the end of that machine gun, that strap's breaking and he's dead. It's not giving him any give. So then he grabs on. He doesn't hurt his shoulders or anything. He just pulls himself up, crawls into the hole, and lights the lighter in that iconic I'm in the vent scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have. He should have been dead.
Well, I thought that my problem with that scene is he does all that and lands in the shaft, and then he starts talking to himself loudly. And I was like, people are still after you, right? He does this a couple of times throughout the movie, like near the end when he's trying to find where, like, what Hans was looking for up there at the
the
top of the building.
C4, yeah.
And he's like, Hans, what were you looking for up here? I'm like, why are you yelling, bro? You don't even know. I'm like, you don't even know where they are. And of course, a couple of minutes later, that's when Karl bags him. And I thought to myself,
You called him.
right.
My come on fam was when they get off the elevators. They get off the elevators as slow as possible, and it's not even in slow motion. And nobody notices that guys with machine guns just entered the room until they start shooting into the air.
There's like 30 people in there, and nobody was looking at that, like anywhere near the elevator.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all fucking blown
drunk and having sex, right? Yeah, high. But come on. Another thing was, we talked about the reporter. I thought it was mad confusing that he had to beg to get a truck to go to a hostage situation.
Well, I guess it wasn't confirmed at that point.
But still, it could be a hostage situation at a major corporation. Like, that should be like, go see what's going on, let us know.
Well, yeah, good point. I mean, if they didn't have anything else going on, yeah, so why are you, like, it's not letting me take this truck?
Right. They did it because he took it. So
I thought when the deputy chief is like, oh my God, he pretty much let him die, talking about Eddie, I wanted to just give the Sam Jackson, yes, he deserved to die, and I hope he burns in hell.
Yeah, I hate it.
God, that guy was terrible.
Another guy I hated since I was 7 years old. Like, why? What is his problem?
I forgot how bad he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a terrible person.
So speaking of your favorite guys, you didn't mention them yet, but the FBI agents?
I'm about to get to that. That's great. So the FBI shows up, and they're somehow even more arrogant than the LAPD was.
Well, their names are Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
Like the baby powder.
I'm surprised, with the subtle racism in this movie, I'm surprised there wasn't a black Johnson and regular Johnson. that would have been, just par for the course.
Right.
So they get there. They don't ask what's going on at all.
They do not debrief anybody. They do not debrief
They were like, yo, we
anyone.
We got it. We got this from here. This is the hostage situation, right? I'm like, come on. Is this Nakatomi Plaza? I'm just making sure that we're at the right scene here.
I still didn't really understand their plan was with the shutting off the power. They were going to shut off the power, and then what happens?
Yeah, so I have that as one of my funny things because they're probably pissing in their pants right now. I was like, over the lights being off? Like, they're not 5. Like,
and didn't the building have backup lights too?
They're Gucci. I'm like, they've been there all day. I think they're good. They probably know the layout by now. They don't really need the lights.
I was like, they're going to cut out the lights for fucking 10 city blocks. And they
were there for like an hour, and that was their best move. Let's make it dark and then wait some longer.
And then fly in with helicopters.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, so another thing with them, so with the walkie-talkies, like when Hans said to hit because they said before they even get to the helicopter, they send the big RV truck at the building, right?
Oh yeah, they sent the armored vehicle.
Yeah, they sent the big armored vehicle at the building, and Hans is like, hit it again. And I'm like, how did they don't hear that over the walkie-talkies? I'm just confused.
Look, man, we moved on from the walkie-talkies. All right, it was like apparently everybody had their own private like two-way communication because John would talk to Hans, but then they couldn't hear that, and then Hans would talk to the team, they couldn't hear that,
and then he would talk to
the cop,
Al,
and Hans couldn't hear that. Yeah.
Sometimes, and then they would randomly cut each other off at like really important times, and.
I will say the movie had satisfying deaths, and Eddie and the FBI guys dying when they get blown up, those were
satisfying,
very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, but all of the satisfying deaths were technically good guys.
Yeah, good point. Yes.
They're not
but terrible good guys.
Yeah, they're not the bad guys, though. That's the funny part.
Yes, that's true. It is, yeah. Those were the two most enjoyable. Because even Hans wasn't like that crazy to me.
The first time I saw Hans, it was nuts. It was like, oh my God, that was amazing. I was 7 or 8 again. So.
But he wasn't even that much of a prick for it to be like that satisfying.
No, right. He was actually pretty reasonable.
Right. How the FBI and the LAPD were the unreasonable ones here. It's crazy. And going back to, one of your scenes when John finds Hans, when the terrorists are kind of just getting ready to leave, he only has 2 bullets. I thought it was interesting that his plan was to surprise them even though when he rounded the corner, they weren't even looking at him. I don't know if you noticed that. He had to be like, hey, so that they would look at him.
If we're going to talk about that scene is pretty ridiculous in and of itself. So they should have just shot him. They let him, again, do the whole big speech.
Yeah.
Hans had to do his big speech. Then, even after all of these speeches, John starts laughing. Then Hans starts laughing. Then the goon starts laughing. Then he takes out the gun and shoots both.
Yeah, it was, that whole thing. I was like, come on, man.
Once he put down the gun,
you made your plan more difficult.
Once he put down the gun, he's getting shot and this movie's over. Let's get our money. We're out of here.
How many times are they going to catch him only to just not kill him immediately?
Have you seen all the Die Hard movies?
Yes, and actually, I was going to ask you, what is your ranking for them? Or at least the top 2, 3.
My favorite is which one? The one with Samuel Jackson.
Yes, Die Hard with a Vengeance. That's my favorite as well.
Yes, that's my favorite. I love the bottles. The water riddle is one of my favorite things.
Yes. So that whole movie with the puzzles was great. It was like entertaining.
Yes.
So
one is pretty good. Two I liked. Two I actually saw in the movies, and then I didn't see the last one.
I don't think I've seen the most recent one, but I did like Live Free or Die Hard. That was like more.
I didn't see that one either.
That was more like the modern ones. That was I think the last modern one that I remember, and I enjoyed that one. But yeah, definitely Die Hard with a Vengeance #1, and then Part 1 would probably be #2, and then Live Free or Die Hard.
Do you know about the whole Die Hard with a Vengeance drama when in the original he's wearing they had put him in Harlem with the sign and it says
yes.
It says I hate N-words and they had to change it to I forgot what they changed it to, but they had to change it before the movie came out.
Yeah, that was I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
I can tell you who. I can probably tell you the demographic.
So now we're gonna get into our funny stuff. So these are just little tidbits throughout the movie that we thought were funny.
So one funny thing I had was when they talked about snooping for presents. Did you ever snoop around for presents as a kid?
Hell yeah.
So
well, my mom didn't really hide them as much as she just put them under the tree and was like, I dare you. So, but what we would do is at night we would cut the tape surgically.
See, I never got to that level. I was never that level of great. No. I never I never hit that level.
Yeah, my sister and I, we were masters at our craft. All right. We would unwrap the whole present, play with it, put it back, and wrap the shit right back up.
But one year I wasn't even like snooping around. Like I wandered upon the gift, and it was the Gold Zelda Nintendo cartridge, the original Zelda game ever in history. So my stupid ass hinted that I knew I was getting it, and my mom was like, "Nope, that's for someone else." And then on Christmas, I opened all my gifts, and that gift wasn't in it. She waited until like literally the last possible second to give it to me, and I was like, "Oh,
that's what you get."
Oh, I got it. At least I got it. Well, yeah, I had an original gold Zelda disc, or the gold Zelda cartridge.
Well, one of my funny things was one of the goons, the blonde goons. He goes into the electrical closet, like a bundle of like 100 cables. He just picks 2 randomly and he clips them, and whatever he's trying to do just starts working. I was like, what?
There were very many moments of convenience in this movie.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
I thought it was funny that Holly had to tell Hans, you need to start doing rounds to the bathroom or it's going to get messy in here. Like, after a certain amount of time, you got to start thinking of things like that. Like is this your first kidnapping hostage situation?
Maybe you don't give a feel like, fuck that.
Yeah. Well, then it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, I guess that is inconvenient. So y'all go over there, that side of the room.
Right, exactly. Do you want to be in the hostage situation that you don't know how long really could last with the worst? I thought it was funny when McClane says glass. Who cares about glass? Because if you see the movie, you know eventually he would care.
Yes, very much so. I thought the Argyle just driving right through the fence at the end was stupid. I was like, so the whole time he was in the garage.
Trapped.
Yeah, he just rammed it. Because at some point he heard the explosions or something. But no, he just stuck around. Why did he stick around for hours anyway?
He was supposed to wait for McClane. What shit popped off? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
He had him on the phone too, and then he clicked. I'm like, "Well, you're waiting around like an entire workday. How much did he think that tip was going to be?" Like,
Well, no, I assumed.
oh, he's for hire.
Well, now he's. I didn't know if he was for hire or if he was rented by the company.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, he was already hired out.
Yeah, he was hired, so he didn't give a fuck. I thought he was gonna stay there as long as possible because he's gonna get paid.
But then at one point he says, "Yeah, my boss thinks I'm in Las Vegas right now."
That confused me, and then I got all lost again. That didn't make any sense.
This movie kept dropping random. It was.
Yeah, I was with it. I was like, okay, this makes sense. He could chill, but. This is another one of the Amazon things, since you pointed out him crashing through the gate. He slammed into the ambulance before that, then slams through the gate. And his car just chilling.
All goody.
He's just chilling.
That's a my last one. I don't have any more.
I thought it was hilarious. I didn't even know if hilarious is the right term when the FBI guys were talking and they were like, we're going to lose like 20-25% of the hostages. And they're like, cool, no problem. Proceed.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty
These guys were
irresponsible.
terrible.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? Guys, that's a lot of human lives. It's a good amount of number that you try to avoid.
I'm telling you, they all had somewhere to be. They were like, just get this shit out.
Well, it's Christmas. They was
wrap
like,
this shit up, B.
I still got shopping to do. I didn't get my wife's gift. Y'all got me out here fucking around with these dummies. I got shit to do. Let me go about my business.
Can we just blow up the building and say they did it? All right.
Nobody will see it because there's nothing around. All right, yep, that's it for me. Now we're going to our overall review. This is just overall what we thought of the movie, how we felt about it. Denari, you want to go first?
Sure. So I am a big fan of the Die Hard franchise. I love them. It was one of the earlier movies I saw in terms of action, and it started my love for, and it also, I think, begun my fandom of Bruce Willis as well. That was one of the earlier Bruce Willis movies I saw.
You're a Bruce Willis stan?
Not stan. I'm a fan of him.
Bruce Willis is alright to me.
What's your
favorite Bruce Willis movie?
I would probably say The Sixth Sense.
Fifth Element.
My favorite Bruce Willis movie. Oh, you're right. Oh, fuck, that's a good one. Nah, but I think I love The Fifth Element. People don't really fuck with that movie.
You had like a moment there. You were like, I fucks with The Fifth Element. Like you short circuited.
Yeah, because I always talk about how people don't give Fifth Element enough credit. Yo, that movie is hilarious.
So you know what? So
it's bad, but it's
I don't
hilarious.
know if it's bad. I would never say The Fifth Element's a bad movie. So The Fifth Element is my homeboy. We were in high school. He said, "Let's go to the movies." It was me and like maybe like 3 or 4 other homeboys. We were like, "All right, let's go." So I heard this movie sounded like it was gonna be really good. I had no idea what I was walking into. No clue.
Yeah, that movie was a lot.
And then I saw that. And
that's part of what makes it dope, though, because when I first watched it, it was the same deal. I was like, oh my God, there's so much happening in this movie.
And the way it's put together so well. So, Fifth Element's my vote.
It's futuristic, yeah.
That's a damn good movie.
Till this day, I still say all night long, all night from that movie. Chris Tucker's, that character is just great. Yeah. Damn, we got to cover the Fifth Element.
Yeah.
All right, so the movie definitely shows his age. I don't think it aged as gracefully as The Matrix. You know, it's also 15 years older.
Yeah,
to be fair.
I don't think that's a fair comparison. And also, The Matrix is centered on the future too, where this was centered on the present of 1988.
That's true. That does help it as well. Well, no, yeah, actually no, because the majority, well, half of the movie in The Matrix is happening in the 2000s. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's right.
So like, it's focused on the future,
yeah.
But they're still in the present. I get what you said. But either way, I would argue that even 15 years ago, it still hadn't aged well.
Fine, I'll take that. I thought how impressed he was by the touchscreen was like, damn, how far we've come.
Oh, he was a cute toy. You know, the John McClane character I'm a fan of as well. You know, his hijinks. We discussed the series of Die Hard, the franchise Die Hard, and he's kept the same attitude throughout. He definitely makes it tough on himself that he needs to, but I can get behind his
enthusiasm
can do while being sarcastic. Well, his can do while being sarcastic attitude. That's key, because he's not just like what do they call him, a cowboy. He's a sarcastic cowboy, which is even better.
That's what the world needs.
Yeah, so if people know me, they know I love some sarcasm. So whenever I see a sarcastic dick in a movie that also does good things,
but sometimes that sarcasm is a detriment when you could just shoot somebody.
It is, and it was in this movie.
Numerous
Definitely
times.
was in this movie. But you must remember to deliver the sarcastic joke, though. It doesn't matter how many lives are at risk, all right? Speaking of, the sarcasm and all that, the movie was funnier than I remembered. Lots of jokes, lots of burns, and quips at each other. I think overall the plot for the movie was pretty good in terms of like entertainment. The cops are like, that should be like a section in the review for this movie. They made them comically bad, like frustratingly bad. But at least they gave us Powell, who definitely empathized with us, and I didn't remember that clearly from before either. He was like, "Oh, come on, guys! Like, are you really? This is what I gotta deal with." So I felt him. I felt him on that. He was like
just frustrated with the whole situation.
Yeah, he was super frustrated with it, and I felt that. And lastly, I would say, this is definitely a Christmas movie. Don't at me, and it'll always have a place in my heart as a Christmas movie. So this is a classic that I still go back to. I'd recommend a watch if you've never had the pleasure, but it definitely might be tough to watch it this far out if you've never done it before or like watching, older movies. Still worth it, in my opinion.
All right, so Die Hard. Again, I saw this movie literally more than 30 years ago or 30 years ago now. I've loved it. I've seen it a ton of times. One of the few movies I've seen a ton of times. The more times you see it, the more ridiculous it is.
Yes.
The first time you watch it, it's just like boom, boom, excitement. This is happening. This is happening. If you really sit down and watch it for like the purpose of this, is just ridiculous. And it was like a terrible plot. One thing I didn't point out that drove me nuts? When they first come into the building, it shows everything they come in with. You know what they didn't come in with? An ambulance.
Oh, it's yeah,
they didn't have that when they got there. Yeah, that wasn't there. And then randomly an ambulance appears. There's a ton of like weird continuity errors throughout this movie. But again, if you're not watching it for that, it's amazing. A funny story. It has action. It doesn't drag. It plays out well. Things
true.
are always going on.
I will have to agree with the not dragging piece. Well, you mentioned it earlier, but I forgot to comment on it. For 2 hours and 12, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, Jesus. But it actually was a pretty good watch.
Yeah, I was like, and I think it helps, though, that I saw it before.
That's true.
So, yeah. I didn't have to pay as much attention as a movie I've never seen before. I've seen it tons of times, so I know essentially what's going to happen in the next few snes. But it didn't drag. It was a quick watch, essentially, for a 2-hour movie. I was like, damn, there were 2-hour movies back then? Yeah. Like, 212 is a long time. So I enjoy it. It's Die Hard. If anybody fucking likes Die Hard. If you don't like Die Hard, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Yeah, you're not my friend.
Thank you all for, giving us the suggestion.
We made it to 20, baby.
Yeah, I was rooting for Die Hard, so I'm glad we got to cover that one. But next time, in the next couple episodes, we'll come up with a couple of more options for you guys and even maybe let you do a user submission. So maybe we get a crowd-sourced favorite. People were loving Demolition Man from what I saw.
Yeah, that's probably going to be.
We'll see.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Only a Movies Pod.
Also, let us know what movies you want us to cover in the future by responding to our Instagram story questions, leaving us a comment on any of our platforms or our pages.
Join us next time for more things that happen only in movies.